Okay, I'm going to discuss the use of the BurtonBands Posterior with the component wedge called Wedge 2. Wedge 2 is designed, so this is the BurtonBands Posterior unit, which is a Versa wedge or a split wedge that has a pre-contoured sectional matrix attached to it. Wedge 2 is this little device here, which is it's mostly solid body, but it has those little raised ribs on the outside of it, and that's made to, when needed, to slide right in between the wings of those split wedges. And you can see how it kind of clicks in place as there's another small raised rib on the inside of the BurtonBands Posterior unit. Important to note that this Wedge 2 is only designed to be used to seal like irregular gingival margins or just to help enhance gingival seal. It is not necessarily required for the system to work. So if your BurtonBands Posterior Matrix unit is in position and your gingival margins sealed, there's no need to grab Wedge 2. But let's assume for a moment that you've got the mesioval bicuspid that does have some strange root anatomy. This one in particular that I'm showing does not, but we'll pretend. So what you're going to do is just place your BurtonBands Posterior Matrix unit, and again, you place it from either the buccal or the lingual palatal. Get it into position, and once it's into position, you're going to take the Wedge 2. I usually use cotton pliers and kind of determine which angle to grab the wedge handle at, so I can get some visibility when I'm doing it. And a lot of times I'll stabilize the BurtonBands Matrix with another finger, or just put a cotton roll in the vestibule just to help hold it in position. But all you're going to do is gently, and I emphasize gently, you do not need to jam this thing in there, just gently push it into position, okay? And it'll go. Give it a little push, and those little ribbed areas allow it to interlock and help stay into place. Now, this isn't super stable, but it's in there. It won't fall out unless you really grab it and pull it out. And so that system just designed to kind of help hold it in there while you're placing your restoration. Now, in some instances, if I've got a good firm, stable setup here, and my wedge is not wanting to move much, and everything's kind of in a nice position, I've got my matrix band contacting the tooth, and everything looks good, everything's sealed up, I'll go ahead and restore this without placing a ring. But in a lot of cases, if these preparations get a little deeper, a little wider, that's why you're running into the furcation, then just to be safe, I'll place a ring. And when you have Wedge 2 in place, there's a couple of different ways you can approach this. The handle of Wedge 2 is a bit smaller, so it's made to, it allows your ring pad to kind of navigate around that. When I have the Wedge 2 in place, I don't like to try to engage the split wings. I try to stay away from those because my Wedge 2 is doing the work here and kind of sealing my gingival margin for me, so I don't need that from my ring and wedge interaction any longer. So all I'm looking for the ring to do is just kind of provide a little bit more stabilization and some separation. So what I'll do is I'll actually, and I'll show this from a different angle, is I'll actually just kind of slide the ring over the top of the handle on the buckle, and on the other side, what I've done is I've kind of avoided those split wings of that matrix, and you'll see that the matrix down here is kind of doing some funny things, but this is past the point of where your wall is sealed. So it's something to look at. If your prep was a little bit wider, then you may want to engage the wing of that BurtonBands Posterior, which I'll demonstrate here to pull it next to it. But the inside of my prep is completely sealed, and that's ready to restore. I like to give these a light burnish, but do it under the marginal ridge. I've kind of created this hood here on these BurtonBands matrix bands. So use it to your advantage and don't destroy it. So when you take a small ball burnisher, I use like a die cal instrument typically just to go underneath of this and get in this area and just kind of roll it back and forth like a pendulum, just to make sure that my matrix band is nice and smooth. But try to avoid taking a full burnisher and just smashing this whole thing against there, because you're kind of taking away one of the anatomical features that's going to save you a lot of time at the end polishing and just creating that perfect occlusal embrasure. So say we wanted to engage that wing. The wing that you want to engage is the wing that's attached to the matrix band. And this takes a little bit of practice, but it's definitely doable. So you just you see how I just slid that over the wedge 2 and allowed the ring to kind of gently grab that single wing there without disturbing wedge 2 and allowing the ring to grab that matrix wing band there and seal your gingival margin. And same thing, burnish and lightly burnish just to smooth your matrix band out, and you can restore.